will literally show you the Korea that you've been wanting to see.
Time to experience the nooks and crannies of Korea as if with your own 2 feet on
K-Patch
with Keewon.
It is a Monday, and that means Keewon comes into the studio to show us some videos, and you're in the actual studio in the flesh.
Yay!
This is nice. I don't think we've been in the studio too many times until we switched.
In the beginning, it was like maybe 3 times.
How long
4 times?
have you been on the show now, Keewon? Do you know?
Man.
Do you remember when you started?
I started in November.
Okay.
So I've been here for maybe about 5?
Yeah, seeing as
Almost
it's March
5 months.
today.
Yeah.
Wowzers, time flies.
It really does.
I don't believe it, yeah. And it's nice to have you back in the flesh. We started having guests back in the same room on Friday. Do you prefer it? Does it smell a little in here? Would you like to go back to your private studio?
No, I mean, it's different. I mean, here's a lot more brighter. There's a little bit more airier. And there, I like it too because I have my own space.
I'm feeling like this answer is you want to go back to that studio. Fine. In the song break, we can arrange it, but you're stuck with me until the first song, Keewon, okay?
No, I like this. I like this setup because I get to, talk to Peter and it feels like we're actually having a conversation rather than having a wall between us.
Yeah, even though you're just over there.
Yeah.
It does feel like there's distance between us.
Yeah.
Was that the film, Distance Between Us? Did you see? I think it's
Distance Between Us.
I think it was this soppy romantic film where there was a boy who was maybe born in space or something.
Oh,
and then
okay.
he came back to Earth and then he couldn't really acclimatize. So I think he was sick and maybe dying. And I think a lot of it was he was in a chamber or something and the love was outside.
Oh.
Don't know why I'm talking about this now, Keewon. Sorry.
No, I've never heard of that movie, but it sounds like a very interesting.
I've not watched it either. I've just watched the trailers. Yeah, and it looked kind of one of those films that is designed just to make you cry.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
make you emotional.
Yeah.
Everybody is giving you some greetings on board. Siska saying, it seems like just yesterday we were saying hello to Keewon. Time has flown by.
It goes by I feel like February went by so quickly too.
Yeah.
It's already March.
It is a short month as well, but it does pass by in the blink of an eye. Today is Independence Movement Day.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that more later on. But the flag, the taegukgi, is our hashtag today.
Oh, okay.
Have you grown up always knowing the Korean flag?
To be honest, not really.
Okay.
So because I grew up back in the States, I know more about the American flag than I do about the Korean flag.
Okay.
I know about the basics of it, like the stripes and the colors. I wanted to learn more. And I'm hoping that you can tell me a little bit more about it.
Did your parents, because you grew up in the States, but they came from Korea, right? Did they hang up the flag at all, on these days? Did you have one in your house at all? Either way, there's no shame.
No, actually, not even the American flag or the Korean flag.
Either.
None of
no
them.
flags.
No
Flag
flags.
ban in the Keewon house.
What about you in the UK?
We didn't have one because here in Korea, I was really struck by apartment buildings and your apartment balcony. We usually have this little holder that points outside and you can put a flag into it. And so on days like today, you'll see not every household. I think it used to be pretty much every household, but nowadays many people just, busy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
There are still sporadic ones where you see the flags.
Oh, okay.
And on lampposts as well, they often hang them.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I was going around. So I was like, oh, the flags are all up now.
Yeah, and then some patriotic day is approaching in Korea, right?
Exactly.
I think it's nice. In the UK, when I was growing up, people would hang their England flags. And I mean, not Great Britain Union Jacks, but England flags during the World Cup.
Yes.
Because that's when we all separate from the UK and we're all different countries.
Exactly.
And then for football, it was a big thing.
So who do you root for? Do you root for Korea or do you root for the UK?
It's only come up a couple of times when we've played each other.
Right.
I had to choose.
That's true.
And they beat us. So I say they to Korea and us for England because it was the Olympics in the UK and we were meant to win, but Korea knocked us out. And I was a little bit sad, to be honest.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I know.
I think Korea won the bronze medal that year.
They did.
The movie title is Space Between Us, our producer has clarified. If you want to check it out, and it's not the situation in our studio anymore, but it may be a good watch, who knows. Okay, so today, because it is the Independence Movement Day, we've gone to a particular place.
Yes, so today I will be showing you a video on my trip to Seodaemun Prison Hall.
Have you been before? Is this your first time?
No, this is my first time going, and I definitely did a little bit of research before going in, just because I wanted to know more about it. And it was definitely an eye-opening experience because I've been to Poland, and I went to the Holocaust prison camps there.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
So that was an eye-opening experience. So I wanted to see what it was like here in Korea and did some research on it. And it was also another eye-opening experience just to learn more about the Korean history and what today really means.
That's an interesting experience that you've had, Keewon. We'll talk about that later, maybe, to compare and contrast with this. So where are we going to start with your video?
Yes, so we're going to start with just going inside the prison hall. So this is the entrance.
The Yoksagwan, the history hall.
Exactly. And then there's my ticket. But this is
that's
pretty
quite a
much
nice ticket.
And that's the actual museum. So that's an exhibition hall.
And this was used as a prison back in colonial times.
This was used as a prison. They actually did have to transform it a little bit so that people can use this as more of a historical site to learn and be educated. But that is the 4-meter prison wall just right over there.
Stop people escaping back in the day.
And then this right here is the bowl, the Resurrect Space Bowl, which pretty much shows the names of those who were in this prison camp and that fought for independence and democracy.
Oh wow, what a good memorial object there.
Yes. And this is actually where prisoners were taken to for, I guess, their activity day. And as you can see, there's walls up against each other.
They'd just be allowed to walk around there?
Yeah, they can't.
What?
They can only go through that and they can't actually talk to each other. So that was the purpose of those walls.
My goodness, that's horrible.
Yeah, and then this is the prison, just the landscape of what it was and what it used to be.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Wow.
And there were prisons all over Korea. And this is just explaining about the history.
And it's good to see they've got English explanations as well in the
Exactly.
museum.
And this is the memorial hall. So back during the colonial period, they actually took pictures of all of the prisoners. And they have accounts of all of them, and they actually put them in this room. And actually, I teared up.
Sure, it's emotional.
Just because you can see every one of those faces who were actually in this prison camp.
And imagining what they went through.
Exactly.
In that prison hall as well. Goodness gracious, it's unbelievable that they've still got those records, all those photos displayed there as well. What an interesting way. What a wonderful way, I guess, to remember all those people who maybe lost their lives or went through torturous conditions and stuff like that on this day as well, March Independence Fest. You know, the building itself, I was jolted to a memory because I watched the film Age of Shadows, Mujong, I think it is, from 2016, and it's all about that colonial rule.
I gotta watch this then.
It's fabulous.
Really?
It's not like Rainbows and Unicorns kind of ending style or anything like that. Again, you will probably tear up as well.
Oh my goodness.
And I think it's loosely based on maybe a true story, but it's been dramatized a lot with Kong Yu and Song Kang-ho. And towards the end, they have the scenes from the prison hall. They must have used it because it looked exactly the same, like the backdrop and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely have to watch this one. I gotta check if it's on Netflix, because if it's on Netflix, I will be.
It might well have been, because I don't think I paid for it. It was on my streaming service. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that is a fabulous film. That is so interesting. And it's so emotional just watching it like this as well.
I know. And I think just the history of it. So pretty much when it opened, it was in 1908. So they first opened it for 500 inmates initially. And then in 1919 is when they actually put in 3,000 inmates in what was supposed to be a 500 inmate prison.
So it's way over capacity.
Yes.
I'm supposing the conditions weren't great. And we learned earlier that that was the Independence Movement Day in 1919.
Yes, exactly.
So that must have been like the peak of maybe a lot of rebellion and
yes,
whatnot.
a lot of rebellion during that time. A lot of prisoners were put into these camps. And then in 1987 is when they officially closed it down.
What? It was open way after the colonial period finished as well.
They were still using it as a prison.
I didn't know.
Yeah, they used it for actually a pretty long time. I was also surprised as well when I was at the museum and they were explaining it, and I was like, oh, I thought they had probably closed it soon after.
Maybe just straight as soon as colonialism finished, but not at all.
No, they just kept using it. And so officially was closed in 1987. And then in 1998 is when they turned it into a history hall to educate more Koreans on the independence and pretty much the democracy of Korea.
Well, I'm glad they didn't knock it down, because a lot of things were knocked down from the colonial past, a lot of Japanese style buildings. But I'm glad they kept a few so we can remember, and you can get a vivid kind of experience of those places in the flesh, the bricks and mortar.
They actually had to knock some of the buildings down, so this is only a portion of it.
Okay.
They do have bricks from the past of what it used to be. But yeah, all of it's pretty much renovated.
That's so interesting. We've got another video coming up after a song break as well. This song, I think, from the movie for the so-called comfort women, sexual slaves, Yoonmire with God or Rose. Fatty Stars asked the question that is on everyone's lips. What is going on here? You've tuned into ARIRANG Radio, and I know V Live is often K-pop stars and whatnot, but for us on Daily K, we like to show you Korea's culture. And once you're into K-pop, you want to dive deeper and understand the history and what's going on and why Koreans are the way we are and why we can produce the pop music we can as well. So today, it's the Independence Movement Day, and we're showing you Seodaemun Prison History Hall, which is really emotional. And that song from Yoonmire is from the documentary film Kim Bok-dong from the soundtrack there. Again, that's a very painful aspect of our colonial times and sexual slaves during the war. Japan took many women overseas. Horrible for them. We've got some messages first before we move on to your second video as well, Keewon. Siska says, I remember Key and Leah on the evening show. They also did a video at this place. I'm pretty sure Keewon's is better. I don't mean to boast, but I'm confident.
Thank you, Peter. I got another one from Noor. I never imagined myself going to any prison, even for a tour or a visit, because I just heard the word prison. It already scares me. I don't want to go to prison.
Don't go to prison, Noor. Yes, don't do anything wrong.
You don't want to go to prison. But I also felt the same exact way. I think just the word prison itself is an intimidating word.
Absolutely.
But this is more of an exhibition hall, just educating you more about the Korean history as well as the culture as to what happened.
So did you not feel too much like it was a prison and you didn't want to go there kind of thing, more of a learning experience?
Yes. So it was definitely more of a learning experience when I got there.
Tropic Girl says, as human beings, we tend to shy away from the painful experiences or coming face to face with the past and tough moments in our history, but it is necessary to confront so we never forget.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. And perhaps people might shy away from going here as well. They'll be like, that's just a painful, difficult experience. Do I want to go and look at it?
Right.
But as you said, sometimes we need to do the dirty work, so to speak, have our negative emotions as well. Good stuff, Tropic Girl.
Yes. And then I got another one from Josh. Is this place where they give you meals that the prisoners ate?
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you get meals that the prisoners ate? I didn't know that for a start.
No. I mean, right now with COVID, they are limiting the amount of people that do come in the first place. So I know that they had a cafe, but I don't think they were open just because of COVID.
And we're not 100% sure if this is where that is, Josh, because I think Josh saw that on social media somewhere, that you could experience prison food from back in the day. I'm not sure if it's at the Seodaemun History Hall.
Yes.
It's more a lot of exhibitions. Bo Angelo Simons saying, oh my goodness, kind of seems almost Hitler-esque in ways. It's interesting, but I don't think I would cry. Each to their own with their emotions, of course.
Exactly.
Did it seem in any way similar then to the prison camps that you went to in Poland, Keewon?
Definitely a larger scale compared to the one in Korea. The one in Poland was definitely bigger, a little bit more emotional, I would say, just because I did go on more of a private tour.
Oh, wow.
So they were actually explaining all the little details that went into what people had experienced during that time. This one, you can go in just walking freely and just learning about it as you go, because they do have English, English explanations on what each prison camp and each room of the prison place was. So
I'm sure, if not now, but definitely in non-COVID times, there will probably be certain tours that you could take if you were interested in that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm pretty sure they will open it up once it's a little bit more safer for people to come in a little bit more freely. But right now, that is not so much the case.
Yeah, if you want to get that aspect of it, you might have to hold on for a little while. You've also got something from Leon in Singapore.
Yes, she asks me, do you have an eerie feeling when you visited the prison? For me, I did when I visited the Changi Museum here, which is for prisoners of war during World War.
Yeah, anywhere that has that really dark, maybe in some aspects gruesome past, I think might give you tingles. Did you feel that way here?
Oh, yes. I think from just even going in gave me an eerie feeling. But I guess in the next video, I'll show you more about what's inside the prison camps as well as the torture chambers.
Oh, my goodness.
That gave me more of an eerie feeling, and that made me really sad inside. So, yeah, let's check out the video.
Okie dokie. Where are we?
So this is actually the prison hall.
Inside.
One of the main prisons hall. And as you can see, the roof is actually where a lot of the prison guards would actually look from the bottom. So they make sure that the prisoners were well behaved.
And these are the cells and people who stayed there?
Yes. They kept a record of all of them and they actually displayed it here. But right now we're going into the prison chamber, and you can see that it's kind of small, relatively small.
Sure.
So they probably kept a lot more people than like one or two in there.
And these look even smaller, the underground torture chamber.
Yes. So this is the underground torture chamber. This is where they were interrogated. They have different forms of torture. They have the narrow room torture, where they actually just keep them in this box. You can't see it from the outside, but it's actually super narrow.
So you couldn't sit down?
Yeah, you can't even sit down. This is where they actually torture them with water.
Oh no.
So they would hang them upside down and kind of drown them. And then this is actually someone who actually lived through the torture. They got a document of this gentleman here who's explaining his torture and tearing up. And this is the female prison.
They had a separate
hall.
one.
They had a separate one. And this is actually where Yoon Kwan-sun, she was actually one of the main activists and leaders in protesting during the March 1st movement.
Yeah, known for being one of the youngsters who stood up against Japan on I think this day in history.
And she was only 17 years old when she wanted to start this movement and protest. And this was more of a peaceful protest, actually.
Yeah, a lot of what you see in the movies, like Age of Shadows, it's not so peaceful, because they tried peaceful protests and they weren't very successful.
Right.
But there is something like the Gandhis out there, and maybe Yugansun as well, to say about peaceful protesting, right?
Yeah.
Not fighting fire with fire, but trying to fight it with a bit more peace and understanding.
Yeah.
Sometimes it falls on deaf ears, though, unfortunately. Oh, that torture chamber, that's really, giving me the creeps.
That gave me a lot of creeps down there because the torture chamber was actually downstairs of the exhibition hall.
Yeah.
And just even walking downstairs, you can hear, they actually have like noises too, like a little bit of screaming.
Oh, they play that on the audio.
And it was just like me, and I also brought my mom too.
Oh, wow.
And so we were actually really scared just to even walk downstairs.
Oh,
so we
goodness.
waited for like a couple people to like
Calm
come
down.
down with us before going down there.
Josh Lee saying, yeah, he knows they used to pull out fingernails as
Yes.
torture during Japanese
Actually, that
occupation.
was one of them. Mhm.
Oh my goodness, would that hurt. And in Age of Shadows, I can't remember the exact details, but I think someone was being interrogated in the film. And I think this is, again, mirroring real life events, but maybe not completely accurate. And because they didn't want to give up secrets, one of the independence fighters bit off their own tongue. And,
Yeah.
you know, to stop themselves from speaking in the
Right.
future. And, oh my, if you were in those conditions with that sense of there's no good outcome here. It's going to
There
be bleak
isn't.
either way. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I guess just to talk a little bit more about Yu Guan-sun. So she was pretty much the first female activist, and in March she was the one who actually painted all these flags to protest against the Japanese who were actually taking over the country at the time.
Yeah, so she's got like her own cell dedicated there
Yes,
to her.
that was where she stayed.
Wow.
And I think she was there for a year and a half.
Goodness
So
gracious.
after like maybe her 1 year anniversary when she was there, she actually her and many other prisoners were like screaming Korea, Korea.
Still.
Yeah, still.
Wow.
And they would actually again torture her, and she came out 6 months later after that, and she was totally like she had no idea where she was, who she is, because she was so tortured during that time.
A broken woman after that. Yeah, and when you watch the films, I'm sure they are dramatized in a certain way, but accurate in other ways. You get a sense of how could any human being come out of
Right.
that, you know, normal?
Right.
And many people died
Exactly.
at the hands of this torture, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I heard what they'd do is they'd get them to like the brink of death and then release them, and then it's like, we didn't kill them.
Yeah.
You know, they just died somehow on the streets or
Streets.
something. Which
Due
is,
to mystery reasons.
yeah,
but
that's ridiculous. We'll get on to our listener content as well as some more messages and give you some extra info about the hours of operation and the admission of this really meaningful museum over in Seodaemun after a song request. We've got this from Faz. You've asked for Wings 날개 by Pixie. That brings us back for part 3 with Keewon in the studio. Faz, your song request is coming up. I do apologise for teasing you like that. We've got lots of messages. Our listeners really interested about all of this. Stacey saying, my heart is breaking. And Donna in New York saying, I don't think I could ever go to Auschwitz, the concentration camp. It would just be too heartbreaking.
yeah.
Well, how did you end up going there, Keewon? Poland is a bit off the beaten path for many people.
Right. Actually, I was studying abroad at the time, and my friends were really interested in just visiting or getting around Europe and just
Yeah.
knowing more about its
Where
history.
were you studying?
I was studying in Denmark.
Oh, that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's still pretty far down to Poland, though.
It
You
is.
have to fly down there.
It is. You have to fly down there, but it wasn't too bad just because the transportation in Europe is so easy.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a trip to get there, and we stopped by one of the prison camps there, and it was very, very eye-opening.
Is it just like anyone goes at any time? It's like a museum kind of thing? Or you have to book a special... Like you said, you had a personal tour and stuff.
Yes, so you do have to book in advance, maybe like 2 days in advance. I think depending on where you're staying, because the hostel that I was staying actually had somebody who could take us.
Oh, wow.
So we were lucky enough to have her be our guide and just show us around. But yes, you do have to make a reservation in advance.
Yeah, so there is usually a guided tour available at Seodaemun as
Yes.
well. It says you need to have 30 or less in your group, and I don't think it's going on right now because of Corona, but they ask you to book like a week previous, and you can get English, Japanese, and Chinese as well, and there will be commentary too, so that if you want to learn more. But at the minute, they've got something available as well.
Yeah, so So right now, because of Corona, they have guided service using your QR code. So each of the explanation has a specific QR code just to explain a little bit more about what each section was.
Oh, wow.
And so you can quickly just scan it and you're able to just get more information about
It just
that.
pops up on your smartphone.
Exactly.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I would definitely advise if you come into Korea, make sure you have some kind of data plan because there's so much to do on your phones when you are out and about. Tropic Girl said, none of our country's colonial histories are pleasant. I think the whole world bled and suffered so much over various periods. Even today, for all our development and advancements, millions are still suffering persecution, discrimination, extreme poverty, modern-day slavery, etc., etc. I like that they kept the records of everyone. Yeah, that's so important, I feel, because when you can see a photo of someone, it makes it so much more real than just a story, right?
It does.
Yeah, it's so painful.
Yep, and I got another one from Siska. Besides no prison here, which is like this Seodaemun place to visit, but there is a museum about scary historical incidents here, and I feel like not too comfortable when I'm being there. So in terms of the torture room, the torture equipments, tools, they always make me feel eerie.
Yeah, even in the palaces, you can have, it's kind of a jovial mood, but you can see the punishment of the past. Like they used to get tied down in a kind of crucifix position, but belly down, and they get spanked
with
with
the
this
wooden.
Yeah, with the oar. And when you're doing it with your friends, you know, you just do it gently and it's kind of funny. But thinking that done at full pelt.
Yes.
That could break bones and all sorts, right?
Yeah. Heavy bruises, probably internal bleeding.
Yeah, it's not actually a fun thing at all, but you take photos like that. Here in this prison, though, it doesn't seem like that's part of the experience. It's more of a serious kind of thing.
More of a serious thing.
Yeah, Josh saying, on one of the shows I saw, a variety show, you could go into a Korean prison cell and have a meal there as well, just like a prisoner.
Okay.
That's really interesting. Yeah, again, it's not mentioned on the website anywhere about that, so I don't know if it's Seodaemun per se. But you showed us the inside of one of those cells, Keewon.
Yes.
And it didn't look too small, to be honest, if it's for one person.
Yes, if it was for one person, it would have probably been really spacious. But because they initially made this for 300 inmates, they actually put in 3,000. So you can imagine that these cells were actually really full, maybe more than 5 to 10 inmates in one cell.
Well, that would be unbearable, wouldn't it? Yeah, and the torture chambers with those narrow cells, that looked really like hell. If you couldn't sit down or even stand up properly.
No, you couldn't. And you only had that little hole to peep through, and you could just probably imagine the guards probably not doing inappropriate things to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Noor saying torture itself sounds bad enough, but underground torture.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that would have been poorly lit down there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got another one from Sophie. It's so heart saddening. I love going there to feel how that times would have been. It reflects so much how those people who fought and what they believe in.
Yeah, we must never forget what we've learned, right?
Right.
We've got some listener content as well for similar things in your neck of the woods. First up, it is Donna from New York. I think we're discussing prisons, so here goes. We always passed the Eastern State Penitentiary when we went to visit my grandparents. It's 5 blocks from Philadelphia Museum of Art. The prison opened from 1829 until 1971. One of its famous inmates was the gangster Al Capone, whose cell had furniture, rugs, and paintings. And now the prison is a U.S. National Historic Landmark. It's a tourist hotspot. It looks like a castle.
It does.
I didn't know that you had anything like that in the States, but
inside is pretty eerie.
It is grim, isn't it? Apart from maybe his room with the rugs and stuff. Wow.
And the paintings.
And you said you took a tour with your hubby and it was a little creepy. They've lit it up. It looks deliberately creepily.
Yeah, with the green lights. That definitely makes it not really welcoming.
It looks like a Halloween venue almost, doesn't it? I guess prisons and things like that would be a great venue for a Halloween party or something. We've also got something from Raul in Argentina, I believe this is from.
Okay.
The end of the world prison in Ushuaia. It operated from 1904 to 1947. It was one of the safest prisons in Argentina due to the climatic conditions and the geographic isolation in the province of Tierra del Fuego. The End of the World Prison. What a name.
The End of the World Prison.
Yeah, it had 600 inmates and it was for dangerous repeat offenders and also sometimes political detainees. And in 97, the museum was declared a National Historic Monument. Doesn't look very nice either, does it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they did some renovations, but yeah, it does not look that nice.
Wow. I mean, the prison plans kind of seem similar in a way to Seodaemun.
I was going to say, because it looks how they have the prison guard center and then they have the prison halls.
Wow. And yeah, I guess it's designed that way. They're not meant to look welcoming at all, are they?
Exactly. And their outfits as well.
Yeah, the jumpsuits and whatnot. And I think we've got another photo as well over there. Oh, that's the flag of Argentina from earlier. Thank you, Raul, for all the content you've presented today. One last thing from Sophie in Kota Kinabalu. You said you haven't been to a jail museum in Malaysia, but you visit the War Memorial Park in the island.
Okay.
It's a memorial for soldiers that defended our country during the Second World War. Most of the soldiers were Australian, some from Nepal as well, stationed on the island, and many of them died without proper ID. That's also a very poignant place, a war memorial.
Yeah.
We've got a good few of those in Korea, thanks to the Korean War, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, listeners, for all your content. Sorry we couldn't get to it all. And Keewon, as ever, thank you for coming in with that. Very meaningful this week, I felt.
Of course.
I've learned a lot.
Same here.
Next Monday, have we got a plan for the theme?
Yes, we do. Next Monday, I'll be going, I guess, thrift shopping.
Oh!
Yes, I'll show you where you can thrift shop in Seoul.
That's cool.
So I'm excited to show you guys that next week.
I want to see some bargains, maybe bring them into the studio.
I'll try my best.
All right, we'll see you next Monday. Here is a song request from Faz, finally. Wings, Nalge by Pixie. And then Stacey, your request as well. It's Wonho with Lose.